Hey everyone. So today we'll be learning about how to factorize the quadratic function using completing the square method. Okay, so we'll understand how we'll factorize that quadratic, like any quadratic function, by completing the square. Now, we'll also learn where this method is used, like what is the usage of this method, why we are squaring the quadratic function. So first let's understand the method, and then after that I'll tell you about its application, like where we'll use it. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's understand it with the help of an example. Suppose we have a function fx equals x square plus 6x plus 2, and you have been given that you have to complete the square and you have to factorize it. Okay, so what is the first step that we are going to take? The first step that we are going to take is we'll focus on the first two terms. So let's focus on the first two terms. So what are the first two terms? The first two terms are x square plus 6x. So what we'll do, we'll try to convert the first two terms into a perfect square. What is a perfect square? We'll try to convert it in this form: x plus p whole square. Okay. So what we are going to do, we'll focus. The first step is to focus on the first two terms. Okay. Now let's go to the second step. And what is the second step that we have to take? The second step that we have to do is we'll take the half of the x coefficient. Now, what is the x coefficient in this expression? The coefficient of x is 6. So, what we are going to do? We are going to halve the x coefficient. So, let's halve the x coefficient. So, what will be the half of the coefficient of x in this function? So, we'll take half of 6. So, this is equals to 3. Okay. You can just write it down by making it half. Now let's go to the third step. Now, what is the third step that we are going to take? What we are going to do, we are going to square the half. Now, whatever value we got of the half, we are going to square it. So, what is the value that we got? We got 3. So, we are going to square 3. So, what is the answer that we'll be getting? We'll be getting 9. Okay. Now, what is the next step, which is a very important step, which is step 4. Now, in step 4, in this whole equation, we are going to add and subtract 9. Like, because we were focusing on the first two terms only. So, what we are going to do, we are going to write the equation. So, let's write the equation x square plus 6x, because since we were focusing on the first two terms only, and what we are going to do, we are going to add and simultaneously subtract the number which we got in step 3. Okay. Now, after doing this, what we are going to do after adding and subtracting, now can you see that the first three terms of this expression is a perfect square, right? The first three terms of this expression is a perfect square. So, what will be our step 4? So, let's write what will be our step 4. So, step 4 will be, okay, sorry, this will be step 5. Now, step 5 will be, we'll rewrite the perfect square. So, what we'll rewrite the perfect square? X square plus 6x plus 9 can be rewritten as x plus 3 whole square, right? So, this will become x plus 3 whole square minus 9. Now, what will be the last step that we are going to take? Step 6. Now, we'll add the constant term which we left out here. So, what it was, we'll add it in the expression. So, it will be x plus 3 whole square minus 9 plus 2. So, what will be the final answer? So, the final answer will be x plus 3 whole square minus 7, right? Because minus 9 plus 2 is minus 7. Now, this is your completed square form. So, this is your completed square form. So, by taking these steps, now these are the same the same number of steps, like as it is you have to follow for all the expressions for factorizing any quadratic function. Okay, now let's understand its application, like where we use completing the square method and why do we use it. Now, completing the square method is used for finding out the minimum value of the quadratic function. So, It is used for finding out the minimum and also the maximum value of the quadratic function. So we can say that it is used for finding out the minimum or the maximum value of the quadratic function. Now let's see, because we have here the expression x plus 3 whole square minus 7. Now can we find out the minimum value, the smallest value of this whole expression? Yes, we can find out the smallest value of this whole expression. How? Because for this expression to be the minimum, this term needs to be 0, right? So x plus 3 whole square should be greater than or equals to 0. So for finding out the minimum value, this term should be equals to 0. So what is the minimum value when we'll substitute 0 here? So the minimum value of this function will be negative 7. So this is how, like, from the equation x square plus 6x plus 2, we can find out the minimum value of this function, which is negative 7. And this minimum value is occurring at x equals negative 3. Now we can also find the maximum value of this quadratic function. So that is the major application of the completing the square method. It is used for finding out the minimum and the maximum value of any quadratic function. So we'll meet again in our next video, where we'll discuss the next topics of add maths. And till then, you can just like, if you have any doubts, you can just let me know and we'll reach out to you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.